Okay. So again, thank you for attending this candidate training for the right to clean water in Florida. My name is Melissa Martin. That is my email address that you are all welcome to um, contact me through. And if you have any questions from this training or from future issues that pop up, or just residual questions or concerns, don't hesitate to let us know, and we will get the answer for you as quickly as possible. All right. I was going to also give you a quick little background of who we are as the folks that originally brought this together. So the origin story. And actually, I'll get to that in a couple of slides, but it is a grassroots, nonpartisan effort that we realized the purpose of this particular event is drawn from the asks, the requests of our grassroots members and volunteers and supporters. They're like, we're asking our candidates, but they're not sure what this is, so they're not sure how to fall, fall on it as an issue or as a position, which is completely fine. That's actually a better way of handling things. If you don't know, you shouldn't have a position just yet. So we really wanted to be very clear with what this is, what it means, and what it does and what it doesn't do. So you will be armed with the necessary information and the go-to to answer anything, on our behalf or otherwise that will be coming up through your race. So let's see here. The top takeaways we're hoping to impart are, why we need a constitutional amendment anyway. Don't we have enough laws as it is? The answer is yes, but, and we'll get into that in just a second. Why good clean water candidates should pay attention, should understand what this is, should get behind it ideally. And as you may have seen in other messages, we're not asking for your legislative support or your, political support, because this is a citizens initiative that will go right into the Constitution. And it will be self-executing. So there's no need for legislative implementation or further definition or creation of processes or anything like that. It's a standalone provision that will be amending the Florida Constitution. So in that sense, the reason why you should pay attention, I think, is because it might come up in the campaign, and you should know what it is before you speak on it or find a position on it. And we'll talk much more about that in just a second. Finally, why it matters in your race, and also how to take full advantage of this opportunity. The quick backstory is that in 2019, a few of us were like kind of frustrated with the current situation of things. And most of us were, in the advocacy network and circles for many years. Lots of public comments, lots of tracking and communicating with leaders, whether they're local or agency or legislative or whatnot. They And then there's some that know about the litigation that goes on and the failure rate thereof, and all the above. So we kind of came to the realization that there is probably a better way of approaching this. So you have to take a step outside the box and think and come up with creative solutions, really. And one of those creative solutions was the rights of nature approach, which is something we'll talk about in just a bit, but it was where we started. It was our origin story, and that's why the sponsoring organization is called the Florida Rights of Nature Network. Now, does the rights of nature have any bearing to what we are doing right now? No, and I'll tell you in a second why we pivoted. So in 2019, we came together organized. In 2020, you may remember Orange County overwhelmingly approved a charter amendment that went through the Charter Revision Commission, I think it was called. Which was quickly followed by a legislative preemption against rights of nature. and it's still being litigated whether or not the preemption is constitutional, whether or not the charter stands or parts of it stands, or it's a continuing issue. And then you may have heard of Titusville's issues with a right to clean water for their charter amendment at the city level. So with regard to rights of nature and going from the bottom up approach to helping to change the scenery, we pivoted. We realized we needed to pivot. We needed to go states. We need to focus on human rights because that's where the U.S. and Western legal system responds to this particular issue. And we had to look at the Constitution because we are interested in getting to the crux of the problem and solving the issues, and nothing more than that. So that is how and why we created a surgical approach, which ended up to be a fundamental enforceable right to clean water in the Florida Constitution. All right, so that's who we were and who we are. Any questions? And I should say that please, I'm going to try my best to save as much time between end the presentation and 5 p.m. to answer any questions that you might have. So please go ahead and remember them if you have any questions. So yes, why are we here? Don't we have enough laws? It's ideal to say we shouldn't have to be here, and we're not in the game of blaming or anything like that. But we really looked at the system to understand the crux of the problem. So why another constitutional amendment is a valid question, because we already have one, right? We already have in Article 2, Section 7 in Natural Resources and Scenic Beauty, many of you probably already know, it shall be the policy of the state to conserve and protect its natural resources and scenic beauty. Adequate provision shall be made by law for the abatement of air and water pollution and of excessive and unnecessary noise, and for the conservation and protection of natural resources. So shall is a pretty strong term, and the placement is pretty strong, being in the Florida Constitution. So the issue is, however, it looks to a political mechanism to not just legislate, but also to enforce. And strong words like shall, pretty much window dressing, unless there's an enforceability aspect to a provision along these lines for environmental protection. So the evidence of the current status of things is all around us. Anyone who watches the news or receives news feed about Florida, anything, obviously probably has a good idea that not everything is great in Florida when it comes to the waters. Just muting. The problem, and I'm not going to delve into this too far because there's a lot out there. There's a lot of proof. There's a lot of independent reports from credible sources that say the same thing. We're in an enforcement crisis. What you see all around us is just the indicators. It's the manifestation of a broken system. Okay, and I'll just flip through some of these slides to give you a good idea of what I'm talking about. This does not comport with the clear imperative that was in the constitutional provision that we just read. It's too much. It's wrong. Okay, so something's got to give. And I'm sure each of you have your own story of how and why you care about Florida's waters. I have my story. Like Carl here has a very compelling story. Pretty much everyone who cares has a story of why they care, why it's so important to them. And the problem is things are getting worse, not better. Not just environmentally, but systemically. Things are continuing to move toward an understanding that private, or not just private, but like pollution interests, which is there's a spectrum for, um, way more heavily than the public interest of health, safety, and well-being. So a lot of these stats and everything like that are, you can look them up on some of our information. We have an FAQ on our homepage, which holds some that we can find you more. We're just a little overwhelmed with the proof of it, that this is not adequate at all. And there is plenty to go on there as regarding evidence of we need systemic change. Okay, so, and anyone who would like these slides are just let me know offline and I can forward them to you. Current solutions don't work. We've had a lot of just credible folks that have been in the field of litigating these issues that say it's not enough. The laws are limited with regard to how much citizens can do, courts can do to protect water quality and good management practices. Lobbying works to a degree, but you're competing against very well resourced interests. And I'm sorry, I'm just gonna mute. And of course, the oops, sorry. The bottom line is it's not working. Again, we have plenty of laws that if they were enforced properly in the right way with the right discretion and etc., it could work. It has worked before to a degree. I grew up in Florida that it seemed to have worked from a kid point of view, but it definitely does not work right now. So this is kind of a cycle of harm that we can and should get behind or understand. All right. It's important to note this as well. We're not going to demonize, we're not going to blame or judge or anything like this. Is the system itself. And there are certain parts of the system that just we have to embrace as the reality of things. For instance, businesses will always have, big businesses, especially with a board of directors, etc., they will always have a fiduciary duty, right, to their shareholders to maximize their profits within the boundaries of law. And they will use their resources to shape decisions to maximize those profits. That is not, there's no moral judgment there. That's how we as a society deemed the right of business to pursue business. Okay. So that is what it is. It is. Okay. So in those resources, they're going to use the resources to engage in influence operations, lobbying, campaign donations, etc. So is there a break in there? There used to be. I think the campaign financing laws, the lobbying laws were a little more strict before than they are now. Okay, so a little more influence operations are more successful these days. Okay, so again, that is the current snapshot of things. And unless and until the law changes, that is part of our reality now. Okay, so the influence operations work to influence government decisions. Okay, and the government decisions trickle down the agency chain of command, and and on the legislative side trickle into political decisions and legislative behavior. So then you have to realize that politicians, if they want to win their races, they probably are going to be a little more open to what, where they get their funding from for campaigns to run successful races, because they want to win. That's nature of the beast. Can't change it. You have to kind of embrace the reality. Same with agency employees. When something trickles down to their level of, well, that doesn't make sense, that's not really in the public interest, well, they probably want to keep their job, right? They want to not just keep their job, but probably excel in their career. All right. Again, and this is not anything but a snapshot of the reality of things, the forces of what makes this cycle of harm keep moving. And these are really difficult things to change. Okay, that's why it's a force of nature, practically, of where we are. It's a cyclone that it is tough to navigate, much less solve. So, how do we solve it? When we step back and figure out where, how do we do this without, you know, pitchforks and torches? That's not the ideal. So, what do we do to fix this cycle? Yeah, bad. So what we do is we target very discreetly, very surgically where we want to break the cycle. And what we do is we use the fundamental enforceable right to clean and healthy waters to ensure that the government decisions are based on the public interest and not what may be coming through to influence operations. Okay, that's where we can and should pay attention. Why should we? Because that goes back to our founding documents and social compact and all of the above, where the government purpose is really to serve the public interest. Consent of the governed type issues, Declaration of Independence. It's all there. That's where we came from. That's where we should continue to be. And so, if and when we do this, it will be a clarification of, actually, government, you're supposed to do this on our behalf, and our rights to clean water will supersede the right to pollute those waters. Okay, so it's a priority issue. It's a hierarchy of rights that will be abundantly clear in the Constitution. It shouldn't, again, we shouldn't have to come to this point, but here we are. So human nature, how that falls out when government decisions are based on public interest, the politicians are suddenly free to legislate adequately and providing, the type of laws that we need. And similarly, the agency employees are free to do their job in the public interest, like probably they joined that field and that agency to do. Okay, but I've heard from too many agency employees that they've been curtailed or silenced or frustrated to whatever degree because they, there are political forces involved in decision making that they can't really do anything about. So that is one effect of putting that X right there and clarifying our priorities. That's a good thing. So what happens next? The fiduciary duty of businesses will then turn toward innovative solutions. Okay, so they have to now incorporate the costs and effects of pollution into their own business model off of the backs of taxpayers, all right, by and large. And they'll probably be more incentivized to come up with better solutions that respect the line in the sand that the people are saying, you can't cross this line anymore. To be a good neighbor, you have to maximize your profits without harming our interests to clean water. And we're going to, there's an event that goes into the liberty interest associated with clean water that we'll get to a little bit later, but it restores a fair market. A lot of times, for instance, there are lots of farmers, family farms, that are doing the right thing. They're being good neighbors. They're minimizing impact however they can with whatever designs or available technology or anything like that. And they are competing against a much larger agricultural industry, conventional ag, where they don't, because the law allows them not to respect the water. And, currently that's what's happening. So it's not fair to the little guy to have to compete against something that is not only unfair, but also harming everyone else's interest in clean water. So that will also be a good outcome. Finally, as the cycle continues, how it relates to campaign financing and other type of laws, there's not going to be a reason for polluters to shift to lobby with with large amounts of money anymore. If it goes to nothing because the Constitution is so clear, there's less discretion to respond to their influence operations. They're probably going to save that money and use it for getting better water treatment filters, getting, doing whatever they need to do to be good neighbors. Okay, then this is like blanket type of, gosh, this is how it should work type of uh, assertions. However, it is the vision of how this particular amendment will affect everything else in Florida regarding the system and regarding the cycle of harm that we're all dealing with. So there should be systemic changes in a very favorable way for all interests, except for those who just have to be better neighbors. The only opposition to this amendment is who benefit from the continued cycle of destruction for Florida waters. That is a truth that is paramount and kind of the fulcrum point of this whole thing. And I highlighted the word continued because we understand that the system was what the system was up until when we're able to change it, right? There's no judgment, no blame on the past decisions or those who benefited from past decisions, right?
Successfully.
I'm going to go ahead and mute that. So the people or organizations or businesses or industries that have been benefiting from poor governance of these issues, they're not on our radar at all. It is currently time to just correct course. Everyone, all lives, human and non-human, need clean water, okay? And not just lives, but economic interests, business interests need clean water, especially in Florida. Maybe not in a different state where it's landlocked, where there's no water, but in Florida, it rises to a fundamental interest and a very important public liberty issue. So we're not throwing stones at all for those who made it rich because they were able to use the law in their favor to maximize their profits. But right now, if people care about legacy, if people care about their kids, future generations, life itself, Florida, if they care about anything but continuing the cycle of harm, then they should be for this particular amendment. All right, so how does it work? Very quickly, this is the ballot summary that you'll see, and the two main things about this amendment is that it's enforceable and that it's fundamental. Okay, I told you before the importance of enforceability. If it's going to have any effect at all, it needs to have teeth. Again, that's nature of the beast, where most things, most entities, most people don't care what you have to say unless they might be sued for it. Yeah, it's a shame that we're here, but here we are. So it authorizes a person, and a person can be an individual, an organization, a business, nonprofit, a tribe. I think local government. It's in the text what how to define person, but sue for equitable relief. What is equitable relief? It's not monetary damages. Okay, it's really just the power of a court to say, hey, fix this, guys. It's the court's ability to see whether or not an action or an inaction that is alleged to be harmful to Florida waters rises to the level of a violation of a right to clean and healthy waters. Okay, so once that determination is made, and that could be a declaratory judgment and end the issue there, or it could also be an injunctive relief, which means it could stop a pending permit application, or it could force the rescission or the withdrawal of an approval of a permit that is obviously in violation of the Constitution. It means it's fixing power. It allows the court to say you're going to have to fix yourself because what you're doing is in violation of the Constitution. And we can get further into those details if you want, but that goes hand in hand with the level of scrutiny that the courts will enjoy now, because it's a fundamental right. Fundamental right is more protected in the law than just a right to, for instance, to certain process or whatnot. It's akin to the civil liberties, Amendment 1, First Amendment type of liberties that are protected, with the court second guessing other branches to ensure that the rights and liberties of the people are respected. Okay, and the people are saying, yes, this is an issue where we believe deserves fundamental right treatment, and that's what's clear in this particular amendment. All right. Again, I'm happy to go over this further in Q&A or offline. Just let me know. Strict scrutiny
next week.
You. All right. Strict scrutiny really quickly in the law. Just by and large says it is, the question will be this: does a government action or inaction promote a compelling state interest, which is a lot like, for instance, saving lives or protecting lives, health interests, safety. Does it promote a compelling state interest, and was it narrowly tailored to advance that interest by the least intrusive means? So if the defendant or the government agency being looked at has an action or inaction that does not, the amendment does not affect government actions that do serve important public interests, or compelling state interests, I should say, for example, protecting lives, as long as those actions were designed to prevent as much harm as possible. So when questions come up like, well, we are not able to do this anymore, the question is it a government action that is serving a compelling interest? Yes or no? Yes. Is it doing its best to prevent harm as much as possible? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, then it's good to go. There's no violation. There's no rights violation with that. If there's a no for either question mark, then it could be held as a violation of a right. And at that point, the court will determine the appropriate relief based on all of the evidence presented, meaning, is the relief sought practicable? Is it really within reason to expect the agency to do X, Y, or Z? And those are the type of questions that are going to be part of this. But the bottom line is this: this is a shift from a framework that is deferential to agencies, to government knows best, don't ask questions, just trust us, to trust but verify, do your best and prepare to show your work type of standard. And that is the crux of what this amendment is all about. So, assuming you're with me so far, how do I incorporate this into my campaign? Well, you can also obviously tell your constituents about it if you would like. Be prepared to answer questions about it. You're welcome to check out our website. There's a lot of information there. The FAQs can be helpful. If you have a question that you don't see an answer for, please let us know. We'll just update it. There are, of course, when you're on the trail, the campaign trail, there's going to be speaking opportunities, right? You can let them know about the amendment, that it exists, that the initiative exists, that everyone needs to please sign their ballot petition, why Florida needs it, and you can go back to the cycle of harm and how this is fixing things on a systemic level. And even though, like I said before, even though this is not requiring legislative action to make the amendment come into effect, it is important to understand it, and once you understand it, probably support it, because it could very well be a litmus test to determine which candidates are working for the people of Florida and which are not. And finally, you can, of course, encourage, like I said before, everyone to sign their ballot petition. There's of course, lots of things. You can be creative in your communications. And if and when you do post something on your respective websites or social media, just you're welcome to tag us, and we'll give you a public thank you, a share. And that's important for folks to understand where you fall on this issue. Um, and finally, FloridaRightToCleanWater.org is an important resource for all. There's not just about the amendment or about the campaign, but if you check out our list of things under how to support, or just the support toggle, you'll see that there cross partisan support from all parties. There are support from communities of faith and goodwill. There's support from all, different levels of support from various organizations statewide. You're welcome to just check those out. And of course, you can prepare for the debate should it come up. There's a lot of things out there that we haven't really fielded because it doesn't, I guess the counter narrative machine hasn't started yet, but some of these are likely going to be part of that counter narrative. The fact that we don't need it, I'm hoping I made the case of, and you can just look around to make the case that yes, we kind of do. Some folks that consider themselves clean water candidates still believe in the political system. That's fine. But just know that that's a valid position if you can also break the cycle of harm at the same time and get a majority vote to support your intention. So those are some systemic things that, like I said before, in yesteryear, decades ago, it may have been possible, but these days there are too many things, too many legal challenges that make it not a viable option. So it'll raise your taxes or bankrupt Florida or a local government or agency already. It won't. There are many reasons to that, and we can dive into that further very easily. It'll take your property rights away. It has no bearing on property rights. Why? Because there's no right to pollute, and that is the only thing we're working with here. It changes property rights, the ability to use your property to the best and highest use. That is, again, anything you have to have a permit for is not your right. It might be a speculative interest, but it's not a right. So so that is just something that people need to understand and pivot back to the truth about, because it is actually helping to guard the rights and interests of property owners to, in their property values and their ability to use their property. Like they want to go outside if they're waterfronts. They don't want to go outside to dead fish or smells or the idea that toxins are going to give them neurological issues. Those are, a property owner not being able to use their own property or enjoy their own property is a property right that isn't talked about nearly enough when we're talking about water. So you can also know your platform and your own party. And these are very difficult to read here, but I put on our webpage, if you look at cross-partisan support, you can, it's blown up and you can read all of it. There's also a brochure that you can download and print out if you would like. But each party has their own platform excerpts that are very clearly in alignment with how this approach is designed and the effects that it will yield. So I welcome you to check that out when you can. And of course, you can provide more tangible support for the cause if you wish. You can not only, bring some blank petitions with you when you're canvassing or out and about tabling. I've heard from many candidates that it has, and folks in various political entities, that it has been a great opener for people who are not necessarily already in their party, but just the universal public. They will listen more carefully to what you have to say when they are given the opportunity to sign a right to clean water petition, it just kind of locks in the presumption and rapport of, okay, you care about my interests. And that's just an FYI. It may or may not work for you, but that's based on anecdotal evidence of some from the field. You can always consider this your opportunity to step into a bold leadership and use the mic to inspire change, persuade others to support, to at least call to answer the call to action, meaning signing the ballot petition, donating, volunteering if they wish or that they can, but somehow support however they can. And I'll just throw this out there. Please keep us in mind. At the end of your race, you may have some residual funds to get rid of. We would love to have those funds or some of them to really boost our ability to accomplish this mission. And so please keep us in mind. We will be able to provide a prospectus for you if you're, like I said before, if you're interested in something like that. One example of how dollars can be saved and used for later in the effort. $1 can pay for one mail out to a household that would include 3 blank petitions and a return prepaid envelope. And those proofs of concept are happening right now. So yeah, happy to talk about this offline. And if you prefer to donate to a 501c3 with your residual funds, awesome. We have one of those too at the ready. And there's plenty to do with regard to the educational effort of this campaign. Of course, you can always stay tuned to what's next. And if you have any desire to stay abreast of what's going on in the campaign, or if and when you can synchronize events or information or anything along those lines, please, all we just need you to do is subscribe to the Florida Right to Clean Water.org website, and you become part of our list of email distribution. So for example, there is an event coming up on July 3rd at 4 p.m., Securing Blessings of Liberty with a Right to Clean Water. And that's, of course, going to be in the spirit of July 4th, what it means, what it should still mean, foundational truth. There's going to be some pretty cool guest speakers on there. And at the end, we'll have a back to basics raffle, which, if you tune in, you'll find out more about. There's a way to register and join the Facebook event if you'd like. There's also going to be a silent auction in August, engaging communities of faith and goodwill in September timeframe, early October. Organizing, that's a season of creation. Organizing coverage of polling locations. If you can help out with that, that'd be very, very cool for both primary and general elections. Those are some of the things that are around the corner that we're preparing for and we'll be organizing. So if you'd like to have fun with that. This is the magic number for now. We just need about a million, to be honest, about a 1.2 million maybe of signatures to turn in by the end of 2025. It seems like it's a far off thing, but we have a long way to go with still a need to scale up. Okay, our main obstacles include apathy and just lack of awareness. All right, the more people hear about it, the more people support it, and the people that may be apathetic about it, they might not have heard the right resonating reason why they should care. So there are a lot of ways to help get this on the ballot. So with that, I will open it up to questions, concerns, and whatever you would like to talk about. If you can raise your hand or the little digital hand, that would be cool, just for lining people up in order. But let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and check out the chat to see if there's, go ahead, Rhonda.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Melissa. The fiscal impact, could you run through that part again? I have had people asking me if it wouldn't cost us more because we would actually be making our agencies work.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't really read out from the sub paragraph, but the first point is like how many billions of dollars are we already spending on cleaning up and restoring water systems that didn't have to be destroyed if there was a good decision point before that. And so with regard to restoration, that is outside of this the reach of the amendment. It's really there to stop the pollution. Okay, so nature and time will eventually restore itself, right? But how quickly is a matter of probably local community, you know, import of getting things done quicker than later, sooner than later. And whether or not or to what degree they're able to is a question if they would like to. For instance, Brevard had a half-cent sales tax because they wanted to restore the Indian River Lagoon, to filter, to stop some of the pollution, to do this and help to restore the lagoon as much as possible. And so that was a local solution to a local issue. And they found the funds because they created the funds. Half-cent sales tax. So it's a question if if you think that's too much to do something locally, that's up to whomever. But with regard to agency level issues, they're primarily there to say yes or no to a permit. And with the clarity of the standard of what harm means, of what clean and healthy waters look like, and things like that, it'll be abundantly clear and obvious for attorneys, government attorneys, and anyone that can read the and understand the text of the amendment, whether or not a permit will probably violate the rights of Floridians to clean and healthy waters. Okay, so that clarity will save money. It'll save money in litigation. It'll save money from the harms, the rippling harms, decade-long harms of bad permits, and things like that. So,
So cool. So it could be
so
argued to be a fiscal benefit in the end.
it is highly beneficial on the fiscal conservation aspect. Yes, and there's
That would
no.
be, yeah, that's great. Great to end on that. Because when I have, and I don't know if anybody else has encountered these kinds of discussions when you're getting signatures, but in the end, I usually say, well, even if we did have to spend more, are you going to say it's not worth it for clean water? And even conservatives have caved in on that and said, no, we really need clean water.
It's an essential to everything else. So
Thanks.
in many ways, of course. Thank you so much. All right, do we have another question? I'm just looking back at the chat while y'all decide. Okay, good. Well, if I don't see your question right away, you're welcome to voice it if you did drop something in the chat. And if anyone is on Facebook and happen to see our live stream, I'm unable to see the any comments below. So if there's a connection there with someone can bring that up, that would be cool. I am not above ending this meeting early. And I just wanted to make sure that you all have the resources you need, the information you need, and the email that you need to so if something pops up that you didn't hear today or you were able to find on our website, then please don't hesitate to let us know and we'll help you out. Yes, Carl.
Can the amendment bolster home rule authority in regards to the overuse of state preemptions addressing pollution at the local level, like fertilizer bans, the not uh, the not funding septic to sewer programs? Could municipalities and counties use the law to uh, bring the agencies forward to better support their infrastructure and local pollution laws.
It could, very well, and it's difficult to put guesses out there in the front, but if I were to bring those issues to bear, I would argue that the clarity of the standard in the constitutional amendment provides guidance to the court whether or not a law is constitutional, whether or not an agency decision is constitutional, as a as a way to have a declaratory judgment, more or less say, no, that's not a constitutional action. So if the agency's defense is we're just enforcing a law that is, that enforcement could still be unconstitutional even though they're authorized to do something or not do something or whatever. So the court will look at how laws will be enforced, and it may or may not backtrack to the law itself. I would argue it should, but it does necessarily protect, I would say functionally protect the local innovative solutions or programs or ordinances or anything like that that is designed to protect the waters within their community. So it is, it seems to be a very clear constitutional standard. So if I were a home rule, or if I were a local government, I would advocate for that interpretation.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Anything else? I'm going to go ahead and wrap up then. All right. If you have a question, admin@floridarightToCleanWater.org. And of course, the website is FloridaRightToCleanWater.org. And please follow us on social media, subscribe to our website to stay tuned for what's next. It is one of the most important things I've done with my life. Oh, okay, good. We have you stopped me on my roll. Go ahead, Adrian. Adrian? You're, yes, muted right now, sorry.
I couldn't find that button for raising my hand, so.
Oh, check.
I also posted that I'm assuming that there's a measurable definition or a definition of what clean water is in your amendment.
Yes. Yes. And we can either go through it now or we can go offline and do it. Okay.
No.
When you look at it, let me know if you have any questions. The material terms, so the operative, important words that are in there have all been defined pretty clearly.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you. All right. Ray. Hi, Ray.
Hello, Mel. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to see this going on today. Yeah, a little excited about this. I wondered if you could address the benefits of developing like healthy coalitions with other organizations that may be, environmental, perhaps like the Audubon Society, or even, local to maybe people in the fishing, who enjoy hobby as fishing, since they benefit from clean water. And also the Tourist Development Council, as like I say down here in Sebastian, nobody's going to want to come out here and visit this area if they just see dead fish in the water. So I just wondered, based on the last attempt here to get the amendment going, do you have a lot of people jumping on board from the last the last proposal they had for the amendment? What strategies and methods worked very well at getting more people to sign the petition? I wonder if you could characterize that a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. We have found so far, and this is in general sense, that folks who were, I'm a little echoey right now, I'm not sure why. The folks that gave a thumbs up last time are putting in a little bit more effort this time. So because we don't need just a thumbs up, we need some grassroots action and output. Because we're dealing with numbers, we're dealing with scale issues, And we're hoping to have both numbers of volunteers and numbers of dollars to be able to supplement each other for mission accomplishment. And when we're talking about reaching out to various communities, absolutely true that, I don't know of a community that would be against this. Or actually, I'll tell you this. This is really weird. Some of the folks that have been in environmental advocacy to the degree where the organization is solidly there, and they're used to their standard operating procedures with regard to having a donor base, having fundraisers, having grants, having their newsletters, all that stuff. Some of them don't. That's their world. So they don't know. Most people don't like to have their world shaken. So that not a lot of people try to understand what this is. But when they do, when they realize it and get to that aha moment, they are all on board, and then suddenly they're one of our best spokespeople. And I can list you a very long list of folks that are wonderful spokespeople. Honestly, you could just look at our social media platforms, our YouTube, folks that have come forward and just vouched for what this is as an important critical solution to the systemic issues. But as far as strategy, it's really trying to get the word out. And one of those ways is to make it, pretty much insert ourselves into the campaign cycle this year. That is another benefit of ensuring that the candidates are aware of what this is. So when the machine wakes up and starts to throw misinformation out there, which it will, you all will be there to say, actually, that's not right, and these are the reasons why. And it'll be in front of the people, because otherwise it's difficult to just kind of like meet them at the farmer's market and say, hey, this is important, because all they want to do is maybe sign it because they understand what the right to clean water just generally is, but they might not have the understanding that will help propel it to get it out to their respective networks. You see what I mean? So making it a controversy at the public level of things, through candidates, through organizations that are doing press work or press events or anything like that, folks, it is imperative that we get it in front of people, the Floridians, so they have the opportunity to make the decisions themselves. We're not really, it's not about our faces, our names, or anything like that. It is an idea that that's time has come, that we're trying to spread, so Floridians themselves can own it, lead, support, do whatever it takes to make this happen. So if you're thinking that someone has $10 million to make this happen, no.
Yeah.
Not yet, but we're working on a shoestring budget, and we are all volunteers with a passion. So if anyone wants to have any questions about that too, I'm happy to answer. Thank you, Ray. Did I answer your question? It was a pretty big one with a pretty big answer. So cool. All right. Hearing none. Okay, I'll go ahead and close out. And again, thank you all for your time. I know time is precious these days, so I appreciate your attention and your consideration for different ways you can support this important cause. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful weekend. Okay.
Thanks everybody for attending today.
Bye-bye.